Schlockmeisters fans, I'm going to do a redo of a review I did back in 2012. It's for a movie called Jungle Heat. This is the VHS copy here. I now have it on DVD, PAL DVD, under the title Easy Flyer. Let's watch. It's also known as Dance of the Dwarfs. Our movie starts in a jungle somewhere. I'm not sure what part of the world they're in. I think South America, but we see some guy on the run. I don't know from what, but I think we're led to believe that he's an escaped prisoner from somewhere. And he's a-running. A couple of minutes later, that's a monster! This is Dr. Evelyn Howard. She's just arrived in the same area. She's looking into the possibility that there's some sort of creatures living in the jungle. And she's going to meet up with Harry Bedecker.
Are you Mr. Bedecker?
She's hired him to fly her into the jungle. And here we meet Mr. Bedecker, played by Peter Fonda.
Welcome to Anne Rainbow, Doc.
He's a little hesitant, but he made a deal.
I guess the only way I'm going to get you off my back is dumping you in the goddamn jungle.
So he takes her in.
That's the bond. Local witch doctor. Sure knows how to kill
Also the actor John Amos.
Lucky for you, I'm sure.
Next day he takes her even deeper into the jungle, but they have some copter problems. They spring a leak.
What
happened? Despite the leaks, Harry's expert flying manages to land the copter. But they're stranded at this point. They gotta find some sort of oil replacement.
Oh, we haven't gone yet?
Yeah. Yes, sir, Mike.
Listen closely.
I want to get my ass out of this mother-in jungle, goddammit.
You do have a way with words, Mr. Bedecker.
You can absolutely pop his ass, Doc.
I don't think they're alone. Anyway, he knows a guy named Luis who lives in there.
Hurry!
And that's who they're going to see. Luis and his, I believe, wife have a place. Anyway, a professor had gone into the woods and he's not been seen since, so
It's like some sort of anthropoid creature.
she's investigating that.
No, yeah, no age, no.
What are they?
Duendes.
Duendes?
Dwarfs. Elves. Spooks.
Dwarfs.
What else, can you tell me about these dwarfs?
They come only at night.
Yeah, what else?
They no can climb.
Anyway, she plans to look for the professor.
I intend to look for the professor in the morning. When do you and your airlines intend to leave?
What about our contract?
The next day, he catches her shooting his whiskey bottles.
What the hell are you doing?
She doesn't like him drinking.
From yourself.
I need to be saved. You goddamn drink.
Nonsense, Mr. Bedecker.
All sobered up and cleaned up, they head out.
Are we having trouble with that costume, Mr. Bedecker?
You want to see me on the hog?
Till she gets scared by a monkey.
You ride pretty well, Doc.
Well, thank you. I do a lot of things pretty well. Huh?
So Harry goes back to the helicopter to use some Mazola oil on it that he got from Louise to hopefully fix it. She comes across a dead deer, it looks like. Looks pretty fresh, too. Anyway, Harry puts the Mazola oil in his copter and he thinks it's going to work. Before he can try it out, he gets accosted by
Take a little water and mine, senor.
two thieves.
Fish out of water, amigo. How about a little Mazola oil? A gun at your head and still you'll make jokes.
So he tricks the guy into playing a game of what he calls Cuban roulette. Basically, it was a trick to get the gun from the guy.
Want to play?
Harry 1, thieves 0.
Don't make them honest like they used to. Tonight.
Evelyn runs into Amos, John Amos, in the woods.
Feed on living blood and flesh.
He tells him about the monsters.
To prevent them from feeding on living blood and flesh, we make a sacrifice to them each new moon.
Is this where Dr. Etlinger comes?
This is where the professor was.
That's where you came.
What do you mean? What do you mean? What happened to him?
Came here looking for the unknown. The unknown found him.
And just like that, Esteban disappears. That one thief who got away, something's chasing him. Now, I don't know what falling in does here, but it looks like he's burning up. It looks like it's hot water or something. So she calls Harry on the walkie-talkie later on as she's seeing one of the creatures.
Are you sure it wasn't a pig elephant?
Yeah, she's definitely seen it now. Anyway, she has cameras set up in all the trees all over the place, and they're snapping away. There appear to be multiple creatures out there. Yeah, without question, there are several creatures roaming around in the jungle. And she's going to escape by jumping on a vine over a little crevice there so they can't reach her. Harry takes off from the helicopter and is looking for her. He can't find her, but she starts snapping pictures which are going to get Harry's attention. So he gets a ladder out to her and rescues her. I guess they're really into each other now. And they devise a plan to get back to civilization.
You go get Luis and Maria. I'll get the Mazola. Let's all get the hell out of here.
But something has gotten to Luis first. He is no more. Maria's dead also. There are creatures all over the house and the surrounding area. Anyway, they get in the helicopter, they fire it up. Have a few problems taking off, including one problem with the creature latching on to the helicopter as it leaves. But they eventually knock that thing off too. we lost him.
That sucker's history.
So as morning comes, all is well. She's going to back to get some food and some drink, and all of a sudden, there's a creature there. Thus ends our film. Alright, I just got done watching the movie Jungle Heat, also known as Easy Flyer. Now, this is a movie that I actually have some history with. I saw it years ago when I was a kid, and I remember the end of it so well. I didn't know what the name of the movie was, though. Years later, I was trying to track down the movie to see what was that movie. I just could never figure out what it was. And then in the early 2000s, my fellow Schlockmeister Jeff, his wife called me up one night and was in desperate need of a babysitter because she had to go pick him up at his job, and she needed somebody to watch their 1-year-old child who was sleeping, and she had nobody else to call, so she called me. So I went over there, and I was left in the house alone. Now at that time, my fellow Schlockmeister Jeff did not have a television, so I had nothing to do but just sit there and wait for about 2 hours for them to come back. So I ended up perusing some books that he had. He had some movie books. I have movie books too. So anyway, I was looking at some movie books he had, and he had some monster movie book, and it had it broken down in the appendix about space alien monsters and this type of monster, that type of monster. And there was a section about sea monsters. So I decided to look that up and look at each movie that was listed there. Like Screamers was listed there, Humanoids from the Deep, and I knew it wasn't that movie. And suddenly there was a movie listed there called Jungle Heat. And I was reading that, and it sounded like it could possibly be my missing movie that I didn't know. Well, the next step was to try to track down that movie. Turns out it was available on VHS tape, however. It was rare. It was rare, out of print, very expensive, but I eventually found one on eBay. I probably paid way too much for it, like 50, 60 bucks, but I tracked it down from Transworld Entertainment, watched it, and sure shit, this was the movie I thought it was. So it was really cool to finally have this back after all those years. Now, found out a couple of months ago that it had been released on DVD, PAL DVD overseas, under the title Easy Flyer, which is a title I think that was invented just for the DVD alone, because Peter Fonda's in it, Easy Rider, they call him Easy Flyer. Get it? Haha. What a marketing campaign. Anyway, the original title of this movie is called Dance of the Dwarfs. Not dwarves, dwarfs. It's not called Jungle Heat either, but Dance of the Dwarfs. I think it was based on a novel, actually. The movie itself is actually kind of decent. The first hour of it is a little slow. It's just basically the two of them in the jungle running around. We don't see much, but in the last 20 minutes or so, it kind of picks up, and there's creatures and monsters. I wish we could have seen more of them. They looked kind of cool looking. It was always dark, so I bet you if the lights were turned up, they wouldn't have looked as cool as they did. But it was kind of cool seeing them. And the one scene, of course, I remembered was the very last scene in the movie where they were in the helicopter and the creature was on board. And we don't know what happened then because the movie ended. So anyway, you can get this movie under this title, Easy Flyer. It's a PAL DVD, so you'll need a free, region-free Blu-ray machine to play this thing. And this thing will run you about 25 bucks or so if you want to get it. It's not overly common, so it is a little bit rare, but it's a movie that people seem to remember. I seem to get comments on my review from Jungle Heat in 2012 fairly often, even after all of these years. People remember. I think there's also a video game called Jungle Heat, which leads people there too, but I do get comments about the movie, so it's one of these things where if you've seen it, you remember it, as I did too. So anyway, check this movie out if you've seen it. Easy Flyer, a.k.a. Jungle Heat, a.k.a. Dance of the Dwarfs. It's not bad. Check it out. Deborah Raffin and Peter Fonda. Bye. And John Amos.